A pleasant day, everyone. We are the Group 4, and this is our audio-visual presentation. So, President Diosdado Macapagal started the Real Land Reform Program in the Philippines through Republic Act No. 3844. This law helped give farmlands to poor and landless farmers so they would no longer be abused by unfair money lenders and landowners. It ended the share tenancy system and replaced it with leasehold system where farmers paid a fixed rents instead of giving part of their harvest. The government also created the Land Bank of the Philippines to help small farmers buy land. Lastly, the law limited land ownership to 75 hectares for both private individuals and companies. This means this law aimed to help poor farmers who didn't own land. Before this law, many farmers worked hard on land that wasn't theirs and often get unfair treatment from landowners. The new law gave them a chance to own land or rent it fairly. It also created the Land Bank of the Philippines to help farmers buy land and limited how much land a person or company could own, only up to 75 hectares. That was a big step toward justice and inequality in farming. The next topic is Salient Features of Agricultural Land Reform Code, Republic Act No. 3844. This law replaced the old share tenancy system with the leasehold system. It protects the right of farmers and helps them own land fairly. It also allows the government to buy and divide land among small farmers and give them credit, marketing, and other support. The law includes programs to improve land use and creates a court system to solve land reform problems and other related issues. This means this law brought many important changes. First, it ended the share tenancy system and replaced it with the leasehold system, where farmers pay a fixed rent instead of part of their crop. It also protected farmers' rights and helped them become landowners through government program. The government could buy large lands, divide them, and sell them to small farmers. The law also gave farmers access to loans, marketing help, and land improvement programs. Lastly, it set up special courts to handle the land problems quickly and fairly. Next is abolition of agricultural share tenancy. Agricultural share tenancy was declared contrary to public policy and abolished under the code. This means the old system, where farmers gave a share of their harvest to landowners, was removed. Its abolition ensured fair treatment for farmers and helped eliminate exploitative farming arrangement. This means before this law, farmers had to give a big part of their harvest to the landowners. This was called share tenancy. It often led to unfair treatment and poverty because the farmers worked hard but earned little. Under RA 3844, this system was abolished or removed. It was declared against public policy, meaning it was no longer allowed by law. This change gave farmers a fair chance to benefit from their own labor and to live with dignity. Next is establishment of agricultural leasehold relation. The law established the agricultural leasehold relation to replace the old tenancy system. It allows farmers to lease land by paying a fixed rental rather than a portion of their harvest. This relation can be agreed upon orally or in writing and provides farmers with more independence, security, and fairness in farming. This means to replace the old system, the law introduced the agricultural leasehold relation. In this setup, farmers can rent the land for a fixed amount, not a share of their harvest. This gives them more independence and stability because they know exactly what they need to pay. The agreement between the farmer and the landowner can be verbal or written, but it must be fair to both sides. This system helps farmers feel more secure and confident in managing their land.
So now, let's proceed to parties to agricultural leasehold relation. The agricultural leasehold relation involves the person who provides the land and the individual who personally cultivates it. This relationship is only between these two parties. The first one is the landholder, and the second is the agricultural lessee. So, the landholder, this is the person who provides the land for farming. They could be the owner, a civil law lessee, a usufructuary, or a legal processor. While the agricultural lessee, this is the farmer who personally cultivates the land, such as planting crops or raising livestock. In short, the lessee works the land directly while the landholder provides access to it. Tenure of agricultural leasehold relation. Once established, the agricultural lessee has the right to continue working on the land until the leasehold relation ends. The lessee is entitled to security of tenure and cannot be ejected unless authorized by the court for specific reasons. So, once the leasehold relationship is established, the agricultural lessee has permanent rights to farm the land. They cannot be forcibly removed unless a court orders permits it for valid legal reasons. This security of tenure ensures farmers can continue their livelihood without fear of sudden eviction. Even if this land is sold or transferred to a new owner, the lessee's right to cultivate remains protected. The lessee's right to stay on the land is guaranteed unless they violate terms or a court rules otherwise. How agricultural leasehold relation is extinguished. The agricultural leasehold relation established shall be extinguished only by the first one is abandonment of the land holding without the knowledge of the agricultural lessor. So, if the lessee abandons the land without informing the landholder, the relationship ends. For example, if the farmer leaves the land unused for a long time and doesn't notify the landholder can terminate the agreement. The second one is voluntary surrender of the land holding, by which the agricultural lessee written notice of which shall be served 3 months in advance. So the lessee can choose to give up the land voluntarily, but they must provide a written notice to the landholder 3 months in advance. This allows the landholder time to find a new farmer. The third one is absence of the persons under Section 9 to succeed to the lessee in the event of death or permanent incapacity of the lessee. So if the lessee dies or becomes permanently unable to farm, or for example, due to severe illness, the leasehold relationship ends only if there's no qualified heir to take over. For example, if the law requires a family member to inherit the lease but no one meets the criteria, the landholder can claim the land.
So, debt or capacity of the parties. So, dito naman, nakasaad naman dito kung anong pwedeng mangyari kung ang parties ay mamatay o mawala ng kakayanan sa pagsasaka o pagpapakalaga ng isang lupa. So, take note guys na yung tinutukoy natin dito na parties is yung lessor and lessee. So, yung lessor yun yung may-ari ng lupa, tapos yung lessee naman yun yung pwede nating tukuyin na magsasaka. So, sabi rito na ang agricultural lessor relation ay hindi mawala in case of death or incapacity of the parties. So, paano naman kung mamatay, mawalan ng kakayanan yung lessee. So, ito yung pwede mangyari. Kung mawalan ng kakayanan ng magsasaka sa pagsasaka, pwede siyang palitan ng may-ari ng lupa. Pero yung pipiliin lang ng may-ari ng lupa is related lang din sa magsasaka na yon. So, may tatlo siyang pwedeng piliin, yung mag-asawa na magsasaka o yung anak. So, kung mamatay naman yung magsasaka na yon, is after 1 month, dun pa lang pwedeng pumili yung may-ari ng lupa kung sino yung papalit sa kanya. Pero, yung papalit sa kanya, yung related pa rin sa kanya, yung kadugo niya or yung asawa niya. At kung mamatay naman yung magsasaka within the agricultural year, so after the agricultural year, doon pa lang pwedeng palitan. O doon pa lang pwedeng pumili yung may-ari ng lupa kung sino yung papalit sa magsasaka na yon. So, paano naman kung ang may-ari ng lupa naman yung mamatay o mawalan ng kakayanan? So, simple lang naman yung mangyayari dyan. Kung sino yung pinamanahan ng lupa na yon ay di pa rin mawawala yung agricultural leasehold relation. So, parang malilipat lang kung sino yung may-ari ng lupa, pero yung magsasaka is dapat pwedeng magstay pa rin doon sa pagsasaka na yon kahit iba na yung may-ari. Lessee's right of preemption. So, dito nakasaad kung anong pwedeng mangyari o anong pwedeng gawin ng mga magsasaka kung sakaling ibenta ng may-ari ng lupa ang lupain na pinagsasakahan nila. So, in case na ibenta ng may-ari ng lupa yung pinagsasakahan, yung unang pwedeng bumili noon ay mga magsasaka ang nagsasaka doon. So, sa isang sakahan naman, di lang naman isa o dalawang tao yung nagsasaka doon. So, minsan madami pa. So, kada isang magsasaka is mayroong preferential right to buy that property kung saan lang sila nagsasaka. So, the right of preemption ay pwede lang ma-exercise within 90 days from notice.
Now, let's talk about lease's right of redemption. In case the land holding is sold to a third person without the knowledge of the agricultural lessee, the latter shall have the right to redeem the same at a reasonable price and consideration. And the right of redemption under this section may be exercised within 2 years from the registration of the sale. Meaning, kung isa kang magsasaka at ibinenta sa iba ang lupang sinasakahan mo na hindi mo alam, may karapatan ka na tubusin o bilhin muli ang lupa sa tamang halaga. Halimbawa naman, kung ikaw lang ang magsasaka, buong lupa ang dapat mong tubusin. At halimbawa naman kung may kasama kang ibang magsasaka, yung bahagi or part na pinagsasakahan mo, yun lang ang pwede mong tubusin. Parehas din yun sa kasama mo. Kung ano lang yung pinagsasakahan nila, yun lang din yung pwede nilang matubos, if ever. At kung sakali mang may gustong tumubos sa lupain, ikaw ang unang may karapatan. And always remember na pwede lang ito magamit sa loob ng 2 taon. Kung ito ay lumipas na ng higit sa 2 taon, hindi na ito pwedeng magamit. The next is agricultural leasehold contract in general. So, an agricultural leasehold contract is an agreement between the landowner or lessor and the tenant farmer or the lessee. They are free to agree on any terms and conditions as long as these are not against the law, good morals, or public policy. However, the law considers a leasehold contract illegal or invalid if it includes any of the following. The first one, the lessee is made to pay more rent than what is legally allowed. For example, I am your tenant and you are the landowner. So we have a contract na I should pay the rent 5K or 10K a month. So if I pay you 20K, that is considered as illegal or invalid. So hindi yan pwede. Kasi as a tenant, unfair yan for me kasi malaking halaga na yung 20K and wala rin yun sa kontrata na napag-usapan. Next is the lessee is charged more than the fair value for using animals or farm tools that belong to the landowner or someone else. It is considered as abusive or unfair para sa magsasaka. Kasi, imagine, sa isang araw, 2 to 300 pesos lang ang kinikita nila. Tapos, dahil lang sa paggamit ng kalabaw o gamit ng may-ari, ay pagbabayarin ng mataas na halaga. For example, isa kang magsasaka at kulang ka sa kagamitan pagdating sa pagsasaka at ginamit mo pansamantala ang kalabaw na pagmamay-ari ng landowner, hindi tama na pagbayarin ka ng mataas na halaga. Third, the contract forces the lessee to rent animals or tools only from the landowner or a specific person, buy from a store, or use services controlled by the landowner. do work outside of their farming duties with or without pay fines, penalties, or other charges that aren't part of the agreed rent. The contract forces the lessee to rent animals. It is illegal kasi kapag may force na, ibig sabihin hindi yun kagustuhan ng magsasaka. Meaning, there's no mutual agreement. Sabi pa nga dito na the lessee is forced to rent animals or tools only from the landowner. It is considered as abusive kasi pinipilit lang nila yung magsasaka. Tapos, pinapagawa ang magsasaka ng trabahong hindi niya naman tungkulin kahit walang bayad. Para bang nagmumukhang mas marami pa ang nababayaran ng isang magsasaka kesa sa kinikita o natatanggap nila galing sa landowner. Pinagbabayad ng multa o kaltas ng walang legal na basihan. Na para bang? The last one is the contract forces the lessee to take a loan or pay it back using crops or other goods in kind. Andito na naman yung pamimilit. Pamimilit na umutang at kailangang bayaran ito gamit ang ani. Halimbawa, nagtatanim ako ng palay at mayroong kasunduang kailangan ko magbayad sa utang na gamit ang ani ko. So kapag dumating yung araw o buwan ng ani ko, ito ay mapupunta sa pinagkautangan ko, which is mali para sa batas.
Form and registration of contract. So what is form and registration of contract? Should the parties decide to reduce their agreement into writing, the agricultural leasehold contract shall be drawn in quadruplicate in a language or dialect known to the agricultural less in sign or thumb mark both by the agricultural less personally and by the agricultural lessor or his authorized representative before two witnesses to be chosen by each party. So, sinasabi po dito na kung magpasya ang mga partido na isulat ng kanilang kasunduan, ang kontrata sa pagpapaupa ng lupang sakahan ay dapat gawin sa 4 na kopya. Sa wikang naiintindihan ng nangungupahan at pipirmahan o lalagyan ng marka ng hinlalaki ng nangungupahan mismo at ng nagpapaupa o ng kanyang autorisadong kinatawan sa harap ng 2 saksi na pipiliin ng bawat partido. Halimbawa, si Mang Jose, nangungupahan, at Aling Nina, nagpapaupa, ay nagkasundo na isulat ang kanilang kasunduan sa pagpapaupa ng lupa. Ginawa nila ito sa Tagalog na naintindihan ni Mang Jose at pinirmahan ng 4 na kopya sa harap ng 2 saksi na pinili ng bawat isa. Next, if the agricultural less does not know how to read, the contents of the document shall be read and explained to him by his witness. So, sinasabi dito na kung hindi marunong bumasa ang nangungupahan, ang nilalaman ng dokumento ay babasahin at ipapaliwanag sa kanya ng kanyang saksi. Halimbawa, kung hindi marunong bumasa si Mang Jose, ang saksi niya ang magbabasa at magpapaliwanag ng kontrata sa kanya para lubos niyang maintindihan. Next is the contracting parties shall acknowledge the execution of the contract before the justice of the peace of the municipality where the land is situated. No peace or stamps or any kind shall be required in the preparation and acknowledgement of the instrument. Each of the contracting parties shall retain a copy of the contract. The justice of the peace shall cause the 3rd copy to be delivered to the municipal treasurer of the municipality where the land is located in the 4th, and the 4th copy to the office of the agrarian council. except in case of mistakes, violence, intimidation, undue influence, or fraud. An agricultural contract reduced in writing and registered as hereinafter provided shall be conclusive between contracting parties, if not denounced or impuged within 30 days after the registration. Sinasabi naman po dito na ang mga partido sa kasunduan ay dapat kumilala sa pagpapatupad ng kontrata sa harap ng hukom ng kapayapaan or justice of the peace ng munisipalidad kung saan matatagpuan ang lupa. Halimbawa, pagkatapos permahan, pupunta sina Mang Jose at Aling Nina sa Justice of the Peace sa kanilang munisipalidad para paipatunay na voluntaryo nilang pinasok ang kasunduan. Walang anumang bayarin o selyo ang kakailanganin sa paghahanda at pagkikilala sa dokumento. Libre ang paggawa at pagpapatunay ng kontrata, walang bayad para sa notaryo o selyo. Ang bawat partido sa kasunduan ay magtatago ng isang kopya ng kontrata. Halimbawa, isang kopya para kay Mang Jose at isang kopya para kay Aling Nina. Ang hukom ng kapayapaan ang magpapahatid ng ikatlong kopya sa ingat yaman o municipal treasurer ng munisipalidad kung saan matatagpuan ang lupa at ang ikaapat na kopya sa tanggapan ng tagapayo ng agraryo o Office of the Agrarian Council. Halimbawa dito, ang Justice of the Peace ang magpapadala ng isang kopya sa opisina ng treasurer ng munisipyo at isa pa sa Office of the Agrarian Council. Maliban sa kaso ng pagkakamali, karahasan, pananakot, di nararapat na impluwensya o pandaraya, ang isang kontrata sa agrikultura na nakasulat at nakatala tulad na kasaad dito ay magiging final at umiiral sa pagitan ng mga partido kung hindi ito natutulan o kukwestiyonin sa loob ng 30 araw. We are here in registration of leasehold contract. The municipal treasurer shall, upon receipt of his copy of the contract, require the agriculturalist and agricultural lessor to present their respective copies of the contract and shall cause to be annotated thereon the date, time, and place of registration as well as its entry or registration number. So sinasabi po dito na ang ingat yaman o treasurer ng munisipalidad sa pagtanggap ng kanyang kopya ng kontrata ay hihilingin sa nangungupahan at nagpapaupa na ipakita ang kanilang kopya ng kontrata at ipatala dito ang petsa, oras at lugar ng pagpapatala, pati na rin ang numero ng entry o pagpapatala nito. Next is, the municipal treasurer of the municipality wherein the land is situated shall keep a record of all chess contracts drawn and executed within his jurisdiction, to be known as Registry of Agricultural Leasehold Contracts. He shall keep this registry together with a copy of each contract entered thereon, and make annotation on said registry all subsequent acts relative to each contract, such as its renewal, novation, cancellation, and etc. Sinasabi po dito na ang ingat yaman ng munisipalidad kung saan matatagpuan ang lupa ay magtatago ng talaan ng lahat ng kontratang ginawa at isinagawa sa loob ng kanyang jurisdiksyon, na kilala bilang Registry of Agricultural Leasehold Contracts. Dapat niyang itago ang registry na ito kasamang isang kopya ng bawat kontratang nakapasok dito, at gumawa ng mga anotasyon sa nasabing registry ng lahat ng nakasunod na aksyon na may kaugnayan sa bawat kontrata tulad ng pag-renew, pagbabago, pagkansela at iba pa. Halimbawa dito, itatago ng treasurer sa isang libro o database ang lahat ng kontrata sa pagpapaupa ng lupa sa kanilang lugar. Kung may bagong kontrata, pagbabago o kanselasyon, itatala niya ito sa registry. This is exemption from lien and or execution. The following shall be exempted from lien and or execution against the agricultural lease. First, 25 first centum or 25% of the entry or entire produce of the land under cultivation. So, sinasabi po dito na 25% ng kabuuang ani ng lupa na nasa ilalim ng paglililang. Halimbawa po, kung ang ani ni Mang Jose sa kanyang inupahang lupa ay 100 kaban ng palay, 25 kaban dito hindi maaaring kunin bilang bayad sa utang o anumang legal na pagpapatupad. At second, work animals and farm implements belonging to the agriculturalist provided that their value does not exceed 1,000, but no article or species or property mentioned in this section shall be exempted from execution issue upon a judgment recovered for its price or upon a judgment of foreclosure of a mortgage therein. Ang ibig sabihin nito ay ang mga hayop na nagtatrabaho at mga kagamitan sa bukid na pagmamay-ari ng nangungupaan sa kondisyon na ang kanilang halaga ay hindi lalampas sa 1,000, ngunit walang artikulo o species ng pag-aari na nabanggit sa seksyon na ito ang manlilibre mula sa pagpapatupad ng inisyo sa isang paghatol na nabawi para sa presyo nito o isang paghatol ng foreclosure ng isang mortgage doon. Halimbawa, kung si Mang Jose ay may kalabaw na ginagamit sa pag-aararo at ang halaga nito ay hindi lalampas sa 1,000, hindi ito maaaring kunin bilang bayad sa utang. Ngunit, kung may utang si Mang Jose na ginamit niya para bilhin ang kalabaw, maaari itong kunin kung hindi.
And now let's move on to the rights of agricultural lessee. Number 1, the agricultural lessee has the right to have possession and peaceful enjoyment of the land. So let's say, for example, Juan is an agricultural lessee who plants rice on a 2-hectare land. He has the right to enter the land, plant, or harvest his crops without any disturbance from the landowner or other parties. Number 2, the agricultural lessee has the right to manage and work on the land in accordance with proven farm practices. So, for example, Juan wants to use a new fertilizer to increase his yield. As long as it's proven farm practice, he has the right to use it on his land. Number 3, the agricultural lessee has the right to mechanize all or any phase of his farm work. So, for example, Juan wants to buy a tractor to plow his land more efficiently. Therefore, he has the right to do so and use the tractor on his land. And lastly, we have number 4. The agricultural lessee has the right to deal with millers and processors and attend to the issuance of quitans and warehouse receipts for his produce. So let's say, for example, Juan harvests his rice and wants to sell it to a miller. He has the right to negotiate the price and terms of the sale and receive a quitan or warehouse receipt for his produce. So now let's discuss the right to be indemnified for labor. So the agricultural lessee can be indemnified for costs incurred in cultivation, planting, and harvesting if they surrender or abandon the land. So for example, Nico is an agricultural lessee who plants rice on a 2-hectare land. He incurs costs for seeds, fertilizers, and labor for planting and harvesting. If he surrenders the land due to unforeseen circumstances, he can claim reimbursement for this cost. And next, the agricultural lessee can be indemnified for half of the useful improvements made on the land holding. So for example, Nico installs an irrigation system on the land which cost 100,000 pesos. The irrigation system increases the land's productivity and value. If he surrenders the land, he can claim half of the cost, which is 50,000 pesos as indemnification. So in short, these indemnifications protect the agricultural lessee's investments and encourage them to make improvements to the land. So now let's discuss the obligations of the lessee. Number 1, the agricultural lessee must cultivate and care for the farm like a good father of a family. Let's say, for example, Pedro is an agricultural lessee who plants rice on a 2-hectare land. He must ensure that the land is properly irrigated, fertilized, and pest controlled to maximize yield. Number 2, the agricultural lessee must inform the lessor of trespass by third parties. For example, a neighbor's cattle enters the land and damage the crops. Pedro must inform the lessor about the incident so that they can take necessary actions. Number 3, the agricultural lessee must take care of work animals and farm implements. Like for example, Pedro uses a carabao to plow the land. He must ensure that the carabao is properly fed and cared for. He must also maintain the farm implements such as tractors and plows in good condition. Number 4, the agricultural lessee must keep the farm attended to during the work season. For example, Pedro must be present on the land during planting and harvesting seasons to ensure that the work is done properly. Number 5, the agricultural lessee must notify the lessor before harvesting or threshing. Say for example, Pedro must inform the lessor about the harvesting schedule so that they can inspect the crops and ensure that everything is in order. And lastly, number 6, the agricultural lessee must pay lease rental on time. Let's say for example, Pedro must pay the annual lease rental of 50,000 on or before the due date to avoid any penalties or conflicts with the lessor. So these obligations ensure that the agricultural lease manage the land responsibly and respect the rights of the lessor.
The next is prohibition to agricultural lessee. Work on another land owned by a different lessor without permission, acquire and cultivate another farm larger than the allowed size without the lessor consent. This provision emphasizes that a lessee must remain loyal to the agreement with their lessor. The law prohibits lessees from secretly working on or managing another farm without consent. This rule ensures that the lessee focuses on maintaining and improving the productivity of the land assigned to them. For example, Rex is a tenant farmer of Mr. Cruz. Without permission, he also started farming another land owned by Mr. Gadbilao. This is not allowed because he didn't get the consent of Mr. Cruz. Next is termination of leasehold by agricultural lessee. First, the lessor or their family treats the lessee cruelly. Second, the lessor violates the law or the contract. Third, the lessor forces the lessee's family to work outside from duties. Fourth, the lessee voluntarily surrender for better opportunities. This law grants protection to agricultural lessees from abusive or unjust treatment by landowners. It allows them to end the lease agreement if the lessor commits violation, act of cruelty, or force them into unfair labor. This ensures that lessee work under humane and lawful conditions. For example, Eliza's landlord often shouts at her and forces her children to work for free. Eliza can legally terminate her lease contract because of cruelty and forced labor. Rights of the agricultural lessor. Proposed changes in land use crops, require proper farming methods to conserve the land, collect rental payments when due. These rights protect the interest of the landowner and ensure that the property remains productive and well maintained. By allowing the lessor to make decisions on land use and farming methods, the law promotes sustainable agricultural practice and proper care of farmland. For example, Mr. Nusura tells his tenant to plant corn instead of rice because the soil is dry and corn grows better. He has the right to make that change for the land's benefit.
Obligation of the agricultural lessor. First, to allow the agricultural lease or farmer to peacefully use and cultivate the land. Ibig sabihin ay dapat na pahintulutan ang magsasaka na mapayapang gamitin at bungkalin ang lupa. Dapat na payagan ng may-ari ng lupa ang magsasaka na gamitin at sakahin ang lupa ng walang istorbo o panghihimasok habang umiiral ang kasunduan sa pagpapaupa. Halimbawa, si Aling Lorna ay nagpapaupa sa kanyang palayan sa magsasakang si Berto. Si Mang Berto ay magtatanim at mag-aani ng palay bawat panahon ng hindi ginugulo o pinipigilan ni Aling Lorna. Ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng makialam si Aling Lorna sa paraan ng pagtatanim ni Mang Berto. Number 2, to maintain and not remove any useful improvements on the land, such as irrigation, drainage system, or marketing allotments that already exist at the start of the lease. Ibig sabihin nito ay panatilihin at huwag alisin ang mga kapaki-pakinabang na infrastruktura o kagamitan sa lupa tulad ng patubig, daluyan ng tubig at mga posibilidad na sa pagbebenta or marketing allotments na naroon na sa simula ng kasunduan ng upa. Halimbawa, may patubig na ginagamit sa lupa bago pa man ito paupahan. Kailangan panatilihin ng may-ari ang patubig na iyon at huwag sirain o harangan upang magamit pa rin ito ng magsasaka sa patubig ng pananim. Prohibition to the agricultural lessor. First, forcibly removing the tenant or farmer from the land without a court order, except upon authorization by the court order under Section 36. Ibig sabihin, pwersahang pinaalis ang magsasaka sa lupa ng walang utos ng korte. Halimbawa na lamang nito, bigla na lang tinataboy ni Aling Cecil ang magsasakang si Mang Luis mula sa sinasakahang lupa kahit wala siyang dalang utos ng korte. Hindi yun pwede, maliban na lang kung may otorisasyon ng korte na nakapaloob sa Section 36. Number 2, making the farmer pay taxes or fees that are the landowner's responsibility. Ibig sabihin, pinagbabayad ang magsasaka ng buwis o bayarin na tungkulin ng may-ari ng lupa. Halimbawa na lamang, ang buwis sa lupa ay dapat na bayaran ni Mang Lupe pero pinipilit niyang magbayad nito si Mang Ramon. Mali dahil hindi tungkulin ng magsasakang si Mang Ramon na siya ang magbabayad ng buwis. Ang dapat na magbayad ay ang may-ari ng lupa na si Mang Lupe. Number 3, forcing the farmer to shoulder any part of the landowner's financial obligations related to the land. Ibig sabihin ay pinipilit ang magsasaka na bayaran ng utang o iba pang pinansyal na obligasyon ng may-ari ng lupa. Halimbawa, may utang ang may-ari ng lupa sa bangko, pero pinipilit niyang ang magsasaka ang magbayad ng parte nito. Hindi dapat pinapasa ng magsasaka ang utang ng may-ari. Number 4, making deals with millers or buyers without the tenant's permission when crops are to be sold in processed form. Ibig sabihin ay nakikipagsundo ang may-ari sa mga gilingan o mamimili ng ani ng walang pahintulot ng magsasaka. Halimbawa, ibinenta ng may-ari ang palay sa isang miller nang hindi sinasabi o tinatanong ang magsasaka na nagtanim at nag-ani. Hindi ito tama dahil may karapatan din ang magsasaka sa kita ng ani. Preventing or interfering with the farmer's rights to form or join organizations or unions except upon authorization by the court under Section 36. Ibig sabihin ay pinipigilan o ginugulo ng may-ari ang karapatan ng magsasaka na sumali sa mga samahan o union. Halimbawa, gusto sanang sumali ang magsasaka sa samahan ng mga magsasaka para sa tulong o proteksyon. Pero, tinatakot siya ng may-ari ng lupa na papaalisin kapag sumali. Labag ito sa karapatan ng magsasaka. of irrigation system. The construction cost of a permanent irrigation system should be paid by the agricultural lessor or the landowner. Because of this, the lessor can increase the rental rate based on how much the production improves. However, if the lessor refuses to pay for the construction, the agricultural lease or the farmer can shoulder the cost. In that case, the lessor cannot increase the rent and must repay the lease the reasonable value of the irrigation system once the lease ends. Also, if the irrigation system built does not function, it will not be considered an improvement under this rule. Ibig sabihin, ang may-ari ng lupa ang dapat gumastos sa patubig at pwedeng magtaas ng upa kung tumaas ang ani. Pero kung ang magsasaka ang gumastos, hindi pwedeng magtaas ng upa ang may-ari at kailangan niyang bayaran ang magsasaka sa halaga ng ginawa. Kung hindi gumana ang patubig, hindi ito bibilangin bilang pagpapabuti ng lupa.
Moving on to manner, time, place, or rental payment. It says that the rent for leasing agricultural land can be paid in cash, produce, or part of the harvest, or both. It says that it can be paid in cash, produce, or part of the harvest, or both. Ang bayad sa upa ay pwedeng pera o bahagi ng ani para sa lupang pansakang inuupahan. So, kailan nga ba babayaran kung pera? Kung pera ang ibabayad, ay dapat sa makatuwirang oras pagkatapos ang ani. So, kung halimbawa hindi ito mababayaran in cash, it must be paid within a reasonable time after harvest. And the lessee or farmer cannot be required to pay rent in advance, make a deposit, or file a bond. However, the landowner or lessor is given a special right or lien over a portion of the harvest, but only enough to cover the rent. This gives the landowner legal protection without burdening the tenant unfairly. So this emphasizes that the landowner has also the right na mag-decide kung what portion of harvest ang makukuha niya na enough lang para makover yung rent. So, this gives the landowner legal protection without burdening the tenant. Kasi, syempre maglilis yung worry ng tenant kung wala siyang mababayad, diba? By the help of his or her harvest, hindi niya na kailangan mag-worry kung wala siyang pambayad na money. Now, let's talk about the exemption from leasehold of other kinds of land. So, some types of land are not covered by the agricultural leasehold system under the current law RA 3844, and instead, they are governed by the Order Law, Republic Act No. 1199, Agricultural Tenancy Act of 1954, as amended. These exempted lands include fish ponds, salt beds, lands mainly planted with permanent crops such as citrus, coconuts, cacao, coffee, durian, and similar permanent trees. And for these lands, both the form of tenancy and the rules for payment or consideration will still follow the older law RA 1199. If these crops were already planted before the approval of RA 3844. In example, 1963. Halimbawa, kung ang lupa ay tanim ng permanenteng puno bago pa ang 1963, ang kasunduan ng magsasaka at may-ari ay susunod sa Republic Act 1199. Hindi sa leasehold system ng RA 3844. So, nakapaloob dito ang fish ponds, salt beds, mga puno na permanenteng pananim bago pa naipasa ang batas. For example, ang niyog, kasi matagal na siya naitanim bago pa ilabas ang Republic Act na ito.
Possession of landholding exemption. So dito naman nakasaad dito na ang magsasaka ay may karapatang gamitin ang kanyang lupang sinasakahan, ngunit maaari siyang mapaalis kung mapatunayan ang mga sumusunod na dahilan. So ang unang dahilan is kung ang owner or one of the member of the family of that owner is gagamitin yung lupa na yun personally. Is pwedeng tayuan nila ng bahay or kahit anong gusto nila, basta yung lupa na yun is suitably located. So, ang pangalawang dahilan naman is kung ang magsasaka ay hindi tumutupad sa mga kasunduan. So, maliban na lang kung dahil ito sa mga di maiwasang pangyayari tulad ng mga kalamidad o sakuna. Ang pangatlong dahilan is kung nagtanim ang magsasaka ng pananim na hindi na pagkasunduan o ginamit ang lupa sa ibang layunin. Pang-apat ay, kung nabigong sundin ng magsasaka ang tamang paraan ng pagsasaka na itinakdaan ng batas. Panglima, kung ang lupa ay may permanenteng struktura dito ay nasira o napabayaan dahil sa kasalanan o kapabayaan ng magsasaka. Pang-anim na dahilan, kung hindi nakabayad ng upa sa lupa sa tamang oras. Ngunit kung ang hindi pagbabayad ay dahil sa kalamidad at 75% ng ani ay nawala, hindi ito magiging dahilan ng pagpapalis. Bagamat kailangan pa rin bayaran ang upa sa susunod. Panghuling dahilan, kung ang magsasaka ay nagpaupa ng lupa sa iba, nanlabag sa itinakda na batas, Section 27, Paragraph 2.
Rights for agricultural labor. To enable the farm workers to enjoy the same rights and opportunities in life as industrial workers, they shall enjoy the following. The first one is the right to self-organization. Farm workers can form or join unions or groups to collectively advocate for better wages, working conditions, and fair treatment, just like workers in other industries. The second one is right to engage in concerted activities. Workers can participate in strikes, protests, or negotiations without fear of retaliation to demand improvements in their rights or working environment. The third one is right to minimum wage. Agricultural laborers must be paid at least the legal minimum wage to ensure they earn enough to support themselves and their families. The fourth one is right to work for not more than 8 hours. A standard workday cannot exceed 8 hours with fair overtime pay for extra work, protecting workers from exhaustion and exploitation. The fifth one is right to claim for damages for death or injuries. If a worker is injured or killed due to unsafe working conditions, they or their family can seek financial compensation from the employer. Right to compensation for personal injuries sustained while at work. Workers are entitled to financial support for injuries, illnesses, or deaths caused by work-related hazards. The last one is right against suspension or layoff. Employers cannot suspend or terminate workers without valid legal reasons, ensuring job security and preventing arbitrary dismissals. These rights ensure agricultural workers are treated with dignity, fairness, and safety, aligning their protection with those of industrial workers. By upholding their rights, recognize their essential role in society, and promote equality and labor standards.
Right to self-organization. Farm workers have the right to organize themselves, form, join, or help create farm workers organizations of their own choice. These groups can represent them in collective bargaining, negotiations about work conditions and benefits. However, this right must not disrupt normal farm operations. Supervisors cannot join the same organizations as the workers they supervise but may form their own separate groups. Ibig sabihin, pinapayagan ang mga manggagawang bukid na gumawa o sumali sa sarili nilang grupo upang ipaglaban ang kanilang mga karapatan at mapag-usapan ang mas maayos na kondisyon sa trabaho. Pero, kailangan nilang gawin ito ng hindi nakakaabala sa trabaho sa bukid. Ang mga supervisor o tagapamahala ay hindi pwedeng sumali sa grupo ng mga manggagawa pero maaari silang gumawa ng sariling samahan para sa mga supervisor.
Right to engage in concerted activities. Farm workers have the right to work together to protect their interests. They can join or form groups for collective bargaining, mutual help, or other activities that improve their working conditions. Employer or farm manager must allow workers, labor leaders, and advisors to freely enter and leave the farm or plantation whenever needed. This gives farm workers the freedom to organize and defend their right. This right allows farm workers to unite and work together to protect and improve their lives. They can form or join groups like unions to talk to their employers about better pay, working conditions, or benefit. It also means that farm owners or manager cannot stop them from meeting or organizing. Worker leaders and advisors are free to enter or leave the farm whenever they needed to discuss or plan their activities. These rights give farm workers the power to stand up for themselves and make their voices heard. Right to minimum wage. Farm worker must receive at least 3.50 per day for 8 hours of work. As stated in Republic Act Number 632, this ensures that all farm workers are paid fairly for their labor. The Minimum Wage Board may also increase this rate if needed to match economic changes and protect the workers' welfare. This means this law ensures that farm workers are paid fairly for their hard work. According to Republic Act Number 632, the minimum wage is 3.50 per day for 8 hours of work. This may seem small today, but it was meant to give workers a fair starting pay back then. The Minimum Wage Board can also adjust or increase the rate depending on the economy and the cost of living. This right helps protect a worker from being underpaid and ensure that their basic needs are met. Next is right to 8 hours work. Farm workers cannot be forced to work for more than 8 hours a day. If they work longer because of emergencies like fire, floods, or typhoons, they must receive extra pay, at least 25% more than their regular wages. Employers cannot require workers to work on Sundays or holidays, but if they agree to work on those days, they must also receive at least 25% extra pay. This means farm workers have the right to work only 8 hours a day, not more. This protects them from overwork and ensures that they have time to rest and take care of themselves. If they are asked to work longer because of emergencies like fire, floods, or typhoons, they must be paid extra, at least 25 more than their normal wage. The same rule applies if they work on Sundays or holidays. They must receive additional pay. This right makes sure that farmers are treated fairly and humanly in their job.
Next, right of action for damages. Notwithstanding the provision of existing laws to the country, Act Number 1874, as employers are responsible for injuries or death suffered by their workers while at work. This law states that employers are liable for any injury or death that occurs while a worker is performing job-related duties. It ensures that farm workers receive protection and assistance, including financial compensation in case of accident during work. For example, Karen got injured by a falling coconut tree while harvesting. His employer must help her pay for medical expenses under this law. Next is right to compensation for personal injuries, death, or illness. Notwithstanding the provision of existing laws to the country, Act Number 3428. Workers are entitled to compensation if injured, get sick, or die while doing their job. This law provides financial protection to farm workers who experience injury, illness, or death in the course of their employment. It ensures that agricultural workers enjoy the same rights and benefits as other employees under labor laws. Here an example. Anita becomes sick due to exposure to pesticide while farming. By that, she can receive compensation for benefits from her employer as provided by the law. So these agricultural laws aims to promote fairness, protection, and accountability between landowners and farmers. They ensure that both parties follow legal agreement and that every worker's welfare and rights properly safeguarded.
So next we have right against suspension of layoff. From the moment a farm workers organization files a petition or complaint about a matter that could cause a strike or lockout, or while an agricultural dispute is pending before the Court of Agrarian Relations, the landowner, farm employer, or farm manager may not suspend, lay off, or dismiss any farm worker without just cause. If a worker is proved to have been suspended or dismissed without just cause during this period, the court may order reinstatement and payment of wages lost during the suspension or dismissal. This is without prejudice to any criminal liability under Section 24 of Commonwealth Act No. 103 as amended. So let's say, for example, the farm workers union at Mancanars Farms files a petition without the Department of Labor regarding a dispute of wages and working conditions. The petition is pending before the Court of Agrarian Relations. So while the case is pending, Mancanor suspends several farm workers, including John, without just cause. John and the other suspended workers claim that the suspension is retaliatory and violates their rights against suspension of layoff. In this case, the Court of Agrarian Relations may order the reinstatement of John and the other suspended workers and payment of wages lost during the suspension. Therefore, Mancanor may also face criminal liability under Section 24 of Commonwealth Act No. 103 as amended.
So next, distribution of agricultural lands of the public domain. Distribution of agricultural lands of the public domain upon reservation by the President of the Philippines of public agricultural land available for disposition by the Land Authority. Such land shall be surveyed, titled, and transferred to the Land Bank, which shall reduce said title into individual titles for specific parcels or lots in accordance with the subdivision survey conducted by the Land Authority under Paragraph 9, Section 51. Provided, however, the existing laws governing the acquisition of public lands shall have been complied with, the Land Authority shall thereupon distribution in accordance with the provisions of this code. Each parcel's allot, subject to the terms and conditions of the Land Bank, to beneficiaries selected first 1 to Section 71 or in accordance with Paragraph 3 of Section 51. To be a beneficiary selected, first 1 to Paragraph 3 of Section 128. So, sinasabi naman po dito na ang pamamahagi ng mga lupaing sakahan mula sa pampublikong domain kapag itinalaga ng Pangulo ng Pilipinas ang pampublikong lupaing sakahan na maaaring ipamahagi ng Land Authority, ang lupaing ito ay dapat suriin. bigyan ng titulo at ilipat sa land bank. Babawasan ng land bank ang nasabing titulo sa mga individual na titulo para sa mga tiyak na parsela o lote para sa mga alinsunod sa isinasagawang subdivision survey ng Land Bank Authority sa ilalim ng talata 9 Section 51. Gayunpaman, dapat sundin ng mga umiiral na batas na namamahala sa pagkuha ng mga pampublikong lupain. Ang Land Authority ay namamahagi alinsunod sa mga provision ng kodigong ito. Ang bawat parsela o lote na napapailalim sa mga tuntunin at kondisyon ng Land Bank sa isang benepisyaryo ng pinili alinsunod sa Section 71 o alinsunod sa talata 3 ng Section 51 sa isang benepisyaryo na pinili alinsunod sa talata 3 ng Section 128. Halimbawa, ipagpalagay na may isang malaking lupain na pag-aari ng gobyerno sa isang probinsya. Ipinasya ng Pangulo na ang lupain ito ay dapat ipamahagi sa mga magsasaka na walang sariling lupa. Inatasan niya ang land bank na pangasiwain ang pamamahagi. Una, sinusukat at hinahati ng land bank ang lupa sa maliliit na lote. Pagkatapos, pumipili sila ng mga magsasaka na karapat-dapat tumanggap ng lupa. Ang bawat magsasaka ay binibigyan ng isang titulo ng lupa na nagpapatunay na sila ang may-ari ng lote. Kailangan nilang bayaran ang land bank sa loob ng maraming taon sa mababang interes. Sa ganitong paraan, nagkakaroon ng sariling lupa ang mga magsasaka at nakakatulong sa pagpapaunlad ng agrikultura.
Good day, everyone! For the continuation of the Agricultural Land Reform Code or Republic Act number 3844, I will now be discussing the last 5 topics. It includes the following: the agricultural land, the agricultural lessee, and agricultural lesser. It is followed by agricultural year, the penal provision, and lastly, the sum clause of Agricultural Tenancy Act. To begin with, what is agricultural land? So, agricultural lands means lands devoted to any growth, including but not limited to cropland, salt beds, fish ponds, idle and land abandoned, as defined in paragraph 18 and 19 of this section. So, those who mentioned land, including cropland, salt beds, idle and land abandoned, fish ponds, are only the scope of the Agricultural Tenancy Act or Republic Act number 3844. Once again, it is only the scope of Agricultural Tenancy Act. Next, we have the agricultural lessee and agricultural lesser. So, what does agricultural lessee mean? So, agricultural lessee is the one who tills or cultivates another person's lands with permission. They pay rent either in money or a share of produce or both. Most importantly, the lessee enjoys security of tenure, meaning they cannot be removed from the land by the lessor unless a court authorizes it for valid reason. Second is the agricultural lesser. Well, what does it mean with agricultural lesser? So, agricultural lesser is the owner or lawful possessor who allows another to farm their land for agreed payment. The lesser may inspect the land and ensure proper farming methods are used, but must also guarantee peaceful possession to the lessee. A written leasehold contract sets the terms of agreement which must not go against law, moral, or public policy. Most importantly, a lessor cannot remove a lessee without a valid cause or court order. Third is the agricultural year. So, agricultural year is the period needed for producing a crop starting from land preparation, planting, and harvesting. For crop yielding multiple harvests, the agricultural year runs from land preparation to the first harvest, and then from one harvest to the next. This period may be shorter or longer than a calendar year, depending on the crop. Fourth is the penal provision. First provision under Section 13, a landowner who sells agricultural land without submitting an affidavit that the tenant was notified of the sale can be fined up to 1,000 or imprisoned for up to 1 year. The second provision under Section 27, it's illegal for agricultural lessee to work on other land holdings without the consent of the first lessor. Violation leads to same penalty, a fine up to 1,000 or imprisonment to 1 year. Third, anyone who forces or persuades tenant to sign illegal shared tenancy contracts may face a fine up to 5,000 of subsidiary imprisonment. Fourth, violating the rights of farm workers under Section 40 and 41, such as preventing them from forming a joining organization or from engaging in collective activities, is punishable by a fine between 100 to 1,000 or imprisonment from 1 month to 1 year. If a company commit this, the manager or acting head is held responsible. Lastly is the Sum Clause of Agricultural Tenancy Act. The Agricultural Tenancy Act pays many flaws. Congress, dominated by landowners, failed to fund the program, limiting its reach to only few provinces and benefiting just 7,466 farmers. It only focused on rice and corn lands, allowing landowners to avoid compliance by shifting to other crops or transferring land titles to relatives. But despite those flaws and weaknesses, the establishment of agricultural lessor relations remain vital because it protects tenants' rights, ensures fair sharing of harvests, and promotes social justice in rural communities. As the saying goes, true reform is not in words, but in deeds that uplift the lives of the poor. Thank you.